What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Out of the Park Baseball 26, where we are rebuilding the Pittsburgh Pirates. And today we're going to get through the early stages of the offseason here at the end of the 2028 season. We're going to look ahead to 2029 and try to retool our team here as we try to build on our success year over year. We're coming off our first playoff appearance in the simulation where we unfortunately lost in the wild card series to the Arizona Diamondbacks here. We went the full 3 games and just couldn't quite find our hitting, and our back-end pitching sort of let us down for a disappointing end to our season on the whole. But we're coming off our strongest year to date, in the sim to date, 91 wins, 71 losses, good enough for second in the NL Central. And since we last left off, we've advanced a single day. It's now into the offseason, and a ton of news has come across our inbox. As well as, obviously the opening of the development lab and all of our arbitration eligible players. We're getting into contract negotiations with them as well. So we've handled a lot of business off camera. So hopefully we can just kind of review all of that here together before we get started. But like I mentioned, the plan is just going to be to work through these early stages of the offseason here, these first couple of weeks. So hopefully we sign all of our ARB players. We can show you what we have planned in the development lab. We'll sim through all of the offseason awards down here in the coming weeks. We'll workshop some trades on players that we're planning to non-tender or move on from. And then we'll cut some salaries as well off of our 40-man toward the end of the kind of early stages of the offseason here. And we'll eventually get to take a look at the available free agents. At the end of the video, we can kind of, by then we'll have established our team needs and we can kind of look ahead to players that might make sense to bring on. But it should be exciting. If you find yourself returning to these videos often, I would definitely appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel. That's the easiest way to follow along, of course. But if that's too much to ask, just know that I appreciate your continued viewership on the series. I'm sure these videos find their way to you somehow through the YouTube algorithm, and just having you click on them every time you see them is enough for me. So all that to say, just thanks for continuing to support the series. I'm excited to continue making it here. Hopefully this is a nice turning point for us where now we are seen as perennial contenders in the NL. So let's get into it. As I mentioned, we had quite a bit of news come across. The first major news is that we did not get fired, which we can breathe a sigh of relief, that our owner decided to extend us for 3 more seasons despite us trading away Paul Skeens. So we've escaped safely, and now we are on a new 3-year deal. But that's not the only piece of news we received. Jack Flaherty has decided to not execute his player option, and he will test free agency. And I'm a little caught by surprise by this. We had sort of theorized that maybe he would do this last episode. He just kind of wants a similar, salary, but just over a longer term. So I think it's unlikely we offer him anything here. So he was kind of just a 1-year wonder for us, which is fine. I don't think he was tremendously popular or anything. No, so there should be no negative impact from losing him, but it definitely opens up a 3-hole spot in our rotation where we're going to have to consider who we want to run out there. In addition to, Jared Jones and Dan Beebe, who we're kind of penciling in to frontline our rotation. We have a decision that we have to make on Jojo Romero. Like I mentioned, I think it's likely that he returns for us just because I refuse to believe his ratings on paper can't be effective. I think this is just hopefully a blip in his major league career, and he can kind of rediscover who he was in 2027 with us. But if he ends up being the same guy, he's going to be on a very short leash. I think we'll look to waive and DFA him if he can't turn it around. We have not actually executed on that yet, so I'll make a note to do that. Another bit of major news are fan loyalty. This is we had noticed that fan loyalty increased last episode slightly, and it's actually increased even further to now it's gone from poor to below average. So in the course of 1 season, we've gone from minimal to poor to below average, and now we're in the yellow, which is crazy to even think of. We were 17th in attendance last season. Maintained over the course of the year, we went over this, but we gained 26 points of fan interest. So we're really snowballing in the right direction. And this is like, I think it's rare to see fan loyalty move, so quickly. So maybe that's like new in this edition. I haven't played much of Out of the Park 26, so maybe it's functioning a little bit differently, but that's pretty major for us. We can definitely increase our ticket prices and hopefully boost our bottom line next season. But you may be wondering, like, okay, we had all of this success. We made the first playoff appearance in, I think like over a dozen years for Pittsburgh. Our owner must give us a high budget, right? And the answer is no. He's cutting our budget by $2 million. So this is actually lower than we were coming in last year. We had a flat 190, and now we're just at 188. So Bob is staying true to himself and his penny pinching personality type. So it's a little bit frustrating to not even be flat year over year, but we actually decrease. So, I think we can work within this budget, and it's possible he gives us more money to work with, further along into the off season. But I'm a little, bummed out by this. I think we can reel back our player dev budget if we need to now. Our system is super strong. And, like we reviewed in last video, a lot of our players are taking jumps in salary, so we don't actually have all that much money available to us currently. But if we take a look at our goals here, I think this is why we were renewed, right? Like you can go ahead and see here, we were extended for an additional 3 years. And, we achieved our team record. We improved our batting average. We did not extend Paul Skeens. And all these other goals are still kind of pending. So now the new goals are to reach the playoffs this year. So we've got to run it back. We can't slip down the stretch like we did this past year. We want to acquire a Gold Glove winner, which I'm not exactly sure how we're going to plan to do that, but it's just an average priority goal. So I think if we fail it, we're fine, and we're also in the first year of a new contract, so ultimately we're fine. Bring drafted players onto the team. I think Dan Beebe will have to carry this because I don't foresee anyone else factoring for us that we've drafted. I could be wrong, of course, but Dan Beebe's going to have to do the majority of the work there, and we've improved our fan interest, although this is a 2030 target date by, like I mentioned, 20 points there. So those are the new goals. We've had some personnel leaving that we need to, adjust, and then a new prospect list came out as well. So you can see we do not see Danny Jimenez here, who has fallen outside the top 10. But we do see Dan Beebe coming at 7, and our new outfielder Ben Small debuts here at number 8. So 2 top 10 prospects for our Buccos, top minor league systems. We are still firmly number 1. We've held down the number 1 slot for several seasons at this point. And you can see 2 top 10 guys. Danny Jimenez drops to 24. Our pitcher Jason Solis is at 41. Connor Griffin also just knocking on the top 50 door at 51. So still quite the strong system overall. We have a bunch of guys in the back end of the top 100 to 200 range. So I'll scroll through here and you can see, but a couple of our rookie ball pitchers and DSL pitchers, Edward Lantigua, who got a very brief run at the majors last year, is a top 100 guy here. And then Finn McElroy, Alex Harrington are just on the outside looking in, along with guys like Tyler August and Esther Suero. So overall, we're looking really good from a system POV. And I think that was like all of the major news. So we can get into sort of our arbitration strategy and our dev lab focus next. And as far as our arbitration strategy goes, a lot of this is going to mirror sort of what we had discussed at the end of last episode when we were reviewing the stats of everyone, but you can see the pound sign kind of notes players who we have offered arbitration extensions to, or 1-year renewals. No one here is getting a long-term contract. We're just kind of going year by year based off of their arbitration estimate. They're getting a renewal that is very close in line with this figure here. And, there are 2 guys who we're going to non-tender. We're going to non-tender Endy Rodriguez, as we mentioned. I think we're good to cut salary and use a little bit or go with a cheaper option as our backup catcher, and he was a negative 0.2 WAR player for us in 61 games last season. So I think it's kind of the end of his time here. We're going to see if there's any trade market for him. If there's not, we may just let him go to free agency. It's kind of to be determined. And then same for Liover Peguero. He has been quite good, and he's a capable defender, but I don't really want to pay so much for a backup middle infielder who is like on the short side of the platoon against left-handed pitching only. I just kind of think there are smarter ways to spend our money, and we have guys like knocking on the door at the minor leagues who can kind of take his spot, I think. So there may be a market for him. As I mentioned, he is a capable defender, and he's had some strong seasons for us in the past. So I'm a little more optimistic we can trade him. Endy, we'll see. I'm going to field deals for them like across the next couple of weeks of game time, and we can come back and I'll review like once I have something. I mean, there is some urgency to find a deal for both of them before the arbitration period is over. So we will have to move quickly there. The only one who hasn't received a contract renewal is Braxton Ashcraft, who's kind of playing hardball with me. He's not wanting to take a cheap deal. And, you know, you could say that we could just like cut him loose. He's obviously getting like elbow reconstruction, which is a very major surgery, but I would feel bad if I just cut him loose. He's still got 10 months of recovery. You know, he's our guy. We got to keep him in the facility and like do right by him. He's like, you know, been such a good contributor to our team across the life of the sim. I don't just want to cut bait with him. But that said, we're just going to take him to ARB with a flat $1 million offer. Hopefully, you know, the panel sees our side of the argument and considers his injury and brings us a cheaper salary for him. So anyway, that's the strategy here. We have all of these guys down here who we've like, you know, given minor league renewals. Some notable guys we're cutting loose. We're cutting loose Jorge Barosa, who factored for us a little bit. Mike Walsh is also leaving. Corey Lee Westcath will also leave, and so will Dalton Rogers. So I'm kind of just like a group of like failure of guys who never really panned out, never really achieved their full potential for us. But no other real news to speak of in that group. This group is a little more interesting. These are our like pending free agents who are compensation eligible. You know, 2 starters here, Flaherty, Keller, 2 of our like premier relievers, Abreu and Brash, and then Johan Oviedo. We have no intention of bringing him back, so not even going to discuss it. You can see we've only offered 1 contract here, and that's to Brian Abreu. We've offered him, I believe, a 3-year deal, with the 3rd year being a team option. So he is going to hopefully come back and be our closer for the next 2 seasons, and then we'll see on the 3rd year if we want to bring him back or not. He was looking for around $9 million per season, and that's definitely a huge increase on what his previous salary was, $5 million. It's almost double. But I felt like it was smart to bring him back at that figure, because when we go to the upcoming free agents here that are expected to be in the pool and sort for all relievers, you can see that Brian Abreu is one of the top-rated guys here. He's only 55, or like only one of 3 55 grade guys. And, you know, the other 2 guys are like 42-year-old Chris Martin and 37-year-old Hopi Milner. So, like, I didn't want to risk him hitting the open market. I wanted to give him a competitive offer, one that he would consider and sign, because I think if he hits the open market, it's likely he ends up signing for much more money, like, you know, a much longer term deal and possibly more AAV than he's asking for right now. I think the price would get driven up pretty quickly. So we're trying to get out in front of it and bring him back. And you could make a similar argument for Matt Brash, who also is one of the only 50 grade reliever guys available, who is still relatively young. We have yet to offer him a contract, but he wants like pretty modest money. The hang up with him is he wants all 3 years like fully guaranteed. So I've tried to do team options, and he's not really into that. But I think it's likely I do end up bringing him back as well after we move on from guys like Endy Rodriguez and Liover Peguero, to kind of free up a little bit more of this money here so we can sign him and feel good about it, because when I'm looking at the other relief options available, and like we have Brash and Abreu here, I'm like, everyone else is kind of old and kind of stinks. Like Morahone is nice, I guess. Devin Williams is here. He's 34. Puck is fragile. The Mountain has control issues, and I don't really want to dip down into this like 45 range if we don't have to. I would kind of just like to bring back our two guys, I think. So that's the thought process there. Similarly, we have not QO'd Keller or Flaherty. I was sort of, Keller still wants like a pretty penny for his contract, for sure. So you could say like, oh, you should QO him, and maybe we will. Honestly, I'm still kind of weighing it. I just think he would accept the QO, guys. I think he would straight up just accept it. He's a high loyalty guy. He doesn't want to leave. And you could argue like, well, there's our solution for our number 3 starter if we bring back Keller on the QO. Like, it wouldn't really be that bad, but I think it would stretch us too thin financially, and I just don't love the idea. And similar to the relievers, if we go to the upcoming free agents and sort by starters, there's quite a bit of guys above Keller. Like, I have his line item highlighted here on the table, and you can see there's like over a dozen guys that are more highly rated than he is, who I think would be, more. I think if he were to land in this like 55 plus range, like these are the kind of guys that deserve to be QO'd, but I don't think a 50 grade guy who's 32 years old deserves to be QO'd. I think it's too risky for us to do. So I'm kind of walking back the idea of doing that now. And, I think there's maybe a cheaper option here who we can sign, who's still in the 50 grade range, or maybe we address it via trade. We have a super strong system of prospects. Maybe we can find our number 3 starter in the trade market, but we're not going to intend to bring any of these guys back except for Brash, who I think I will look to get a contract out to after we move on from Rodriguez and Peguero. So that's a wrap on ARB. I'll keep you all updated, or we'll circle back toward the end of the early stages here to review. Let's move on to player development. And as far as DevLab is concerned, you can see the guys we have loaded in here. We'll kind of go guy by guy. There's a good split of major league and minor league talent in here. First and foremost is Dan Beebe, our former number 1 overall pick. We want him to tap into this control because we saw him walking upwards of 7 per 9 in his 20 inning sample last season down the stretch at the major league level. So really don't want this control regressing at all. I'm still obviously very bullish on him long term, and he has good relationships where he should make gains across his movement and control and his stuff as well. So hoping for a good result there. I had mentioned this as well, we're also going to run Jared Jones through a movement program, because while our scout doesn't necessarily see it, OSA does. And I think it's possible that even if he makes like a incremental gain there, it's going to just benefit him more long term. He's like slightly vulnerable to home runs, so I kind of want to preempt that if we can. And obviously we're tied to him for the next 4 seasons here, so want to make sure he remains capable at the front line of our rotation. And then we're also going to go with Wyatt Sanford here. We had sort of alluded to possibly hitting him lead off this next season, and we think there's still 10 points of potential to tap into with his eye here. So gonna look to do that. So hopefully we can get a good result there, but 3 medium difficulty programs to kick things off. So fingers crossed we don't have any like horrendous results like we did with Dan Beebe last season, where he became more injury prone after trying to improve his secondary pitches. I don't even want to think back to that. It's too triggering for me. But then we go Carson Benj here, who had an amazing stretch run for us. We're going quality of contact for him. He ended up with a 134 WRC plus, and I think we're going to try to play him full time next season in left field. So we still see 10 points of contact potential here, a little bit more BABIP to tap into, and he can help get better with his 2-strike approach as well. So we're going to hopefully get more of this bat to ball stuff going on. I'm super hyped to run him out there next year. I think he's going to be an awesome player for us. We're still not done with Connor Griffin here, who has fallen outside the top 50 now. We're going to go with bat speed here now. I had considered contact heavily. This is one I debated internally. So let me know if you feel that this is a mistake. But ultimately, we just see 10 points of BABIP versus 15 points of power to tap into. And I'm thinking about what would be his defining trait at the majors. It's obviously insane defense in center field and good work ethic, spark plug, good at base running. But I kind of want him to be a power bat as well. If I'm thinking what is right, his defining trait or differentiator, is he just a good fielder contact guy, or is he a good fielder power guy? And I really want the power to come along. So given there's still 15 points of work to do here, we're going to challenge him with the bat speed program to hopefully tap into that. And then we're still not done with Alex Harrington. I can't quite quit him yet. You look at this profile and you're like, oh, this is gross, disgusting. He's just average across the board. And that's true, but at one point, we had very high scouting accuracy on him, and we viewed him as a 70 grade guy. So we're still trying to get back to that level. And I look at where everything was. The deficiency compared to where we see him now is in the contact tool. We had this at a 60 grade. He was 60, 50, 50 across the board, and now he is 50, 50, 45. So trying to get this contact back up to the 60s if we can. If it's just a marginal improvement, that's fine. But I still view him as a good piece for us long term at shortstop. I'm hoping he can kind of rediscover it at still just 21. Then we're, dipping further into the prospects here. It's prospects from here on out. I was sort of looking at the active roster, and I was I don't really know who else to put in here because Cruz is pretty much fully developed, as is Termar. Lantigua, you could argue, would be a good candidate, but also he's kind of, I don't know. He's pretty good on his own. I don't think he necessarily needs it. And then there's no one else here who we're really tapped into long term. I mean, maybe Alfonso, but also we see him as kind of a finished product as well. So didn't really think anyone else made sense to throw in here. So we just went full prospect, and we went with our pitching prospect, Jason Solis, who we took in the second round of this most recent draft. He comes in as a top 50 prospect in all of the MLB at 41. And in 9 games at A-ball level, he was tremendous. Sub-3 ERA, positive FIP, not giving up the long ball, but he is walking 6/9, which is a little tough. So we're going to, push him for a control program, trying to get that back up to, 40, 45 grade. He's about to turn 22, so if he's going to, make an impact for us, we kind of need to speed him along here. He doesn't have too much time before he's totally washed, and he's 24. Kind of like our other pitchers that we've drafted in the series up until this point. But I felt good about, trying to bring along another one of our pitchers because we really just have Dan Beebe as our guy. Everyone else has kind of stalled out, and I think it makes sense to commit resources to him. Similarly, Tyler August, who you could argue we should have done this sooner, but we're going to give him a control program as well, and, I'm just hoping for some, outstanding result here. But even if he ends up being a 40 grade control guy at the major league level, I think, it's possible he could be a reliever because he has really loud stuff, and I think he could succeed in that role. He's still just 23. He's our former second round pick in the 2026 draft, and at A-ball he was okay, decent. I think it was a learning experience for him, only 9 starts there. But I really want to kind of fast track him along, and hopefully he can start to contribute for us at the major league level, sooner rather than later. OSA still sees him with a 45 grade control upside, and we did at one point as well not too long ago. We had very high scouting accuracy on him here, and he had 70 stuff, 50 movement, 45 control. So gonna try to make him work. I think, a lot of our other pitchers are just kind of, like I mentioned, stalling out. There's no one else here who I really commit resources to. There's a lot of high schoolers. There's Finn McElroy, who's in the Arizona Fall League. Zane Petty has kind of stalled out at just a 40 grade potential at the AAA level. So I don't know that he ever makes it for us either, which is kind of disappointing. And then, Jonathan Santucci as well. I just don't know that I want to contribute resources to a guy who's about to be 26. So same thing with Nate Snead. I think the injury and the fragility has kind of set him back, and I'm not sure he's ever going to work out for us long term either. So ended up going with August, and I felt like that was the best choice. And then two of our very high tier prospects here to close things out. Ben Small, who got up to A-ball last year and produced really well. You love this profile. He's regressed a bit with the contact tool down to 60 grade. I think it at one point was 70 grade. But when I look at his ratings relative to the league, they're all pretty good. But I kind of want to, make sure he maintains his power. And we think he ultimately has 70 grade power upside. And I don't want that to slip away in the same way, if he becomes like a contact first center fielder, he's so much less valuable than like a center fielder who can hit for true power. So we're going to try to preserve this 70 grade power and give him a bat speed program to tap into it. And then same for Nico, Danny Jimenez. He's really kind of regressed in the eyes of our scout. And I can't help but wonder if we waited too long to push him into the DSL, because obviously he was a former number one prospect in baseball, and of course prospects always kind of regress when you actually start giving them playing time, moving them from the complex to the DSL. There's usually some sort of regression, but I'm hoping he can maintain his generational power upside, and we can tap into that as well. So hopefully his work ethic can carry him to a good performance there. Guys who just missed on a program who I was considering, I had mentioned Edward Lantigua before, but I think it's likely he breaks camp with us anyway, so I don't know that he needs it. And I had also considered Phil Goodall, our second round pick in 2027, the center fielder with 70 range. So I sort of wanted him to get back into his power a bit, because now it's down to just a 45, but at one point we had viewed it as a 60 or a 55, so it's a full 10-point drop in power. So I kind of wanted to correct that if we could, but I just didn't know who to kick out, and I don't want to kick out Danny Jimenez because I still believe in him being a former number one overall prospect. So let me know if you would have handled any of this differently. I'm sure there are some angles that I did not think of, but this is going to be the plan for us moving forward. And now I'm going to start actually playing the game a bit off camera. So I'm going to continue, like I mentioned, workshopping trades in the background. We also have some coaches we need to hire at the minor league levels, and I'll come back to you with any news, but if it's moving along a little slow, the next time you see me may be at the end of the awards season here on the 16th. So let me figure some things out off camera. I'll be back with updates in just a bit. Okay guys, back here. I think we're going to review some of our salaries that we're looking to cut. We're not quite through the award season yet, so I'll save the bigger updates for later, but I was going through to do this and I thought I would show you on camera. So obviously everyone on a major league deal we're not going to be looking at here. We're going to be looking to waive and DFA guys at this lower level here who are on their last option year, or we just don't want to carry anymore. And I think we're going to start with Wilfredo Antunez. Unfortunately, he is in his last option year, and I don't foresee him making the team for us. So our trade return for IKF in season 1 never really made an impact for us. He had a short run in 2027 where he was a cool player for us to have, but I think we just have better options available to us. So we're going to end up waiving and DFAing him, and we will likely release him as well. Or, we may carry him. I'm not sure. It just depends. We've already done so with Jorge Barosa, late last season. I think we're done with him as well. We're probably just going to release him, or, he never really panned out either. Jack Brannigan is safe. He has one option year remaining, and I think he's valuable defensive depth on the infield. So even though I don't think he really factors for us, we're going to carry him for one more season. And then I'm working through the rest of these guys. We have Skylar Hales, y'all. Unfortunately, Superman never quite found it for us. So I think he's actually already, I think we may have already done this, but we're going to waive and DF. Is he on the secondary? I mean, he must be if he's listed here. We're just going to look to clear him out as well. So we'll waive and DFA Skylar Hales, and I think that's all I have written down. All of these other players we're going to let stick around. Wes Kath, we've already done this for. Jacob Melton still has one option year left, so we're going to keep him for the depth. And Mike Walsh we've already removed as well. There was one other guy I wanted to cut loose here. Lister Sosa. I just don't ever want to pay him this $960K, I don't think. So we're going to look to do that as well and cut him loose. But let me keep rolling. I'll be back with the award updates and kind of a recap of all the news. And we're back, guys. Starting to near the end of this episode, a lot of news has happened over the last couple of weeks that we need to catch up on. As you can see, most of our arbitration eligible players have re-signed. We're still waiting on the hearing for Braxton Ashcraft, and we were not able to find trade partners for Endy Rodriguez and Liover Peguero. You know, they're just 45 grade guys, and I think there's just like very low demand across the league for them. I did my best to try to find a deal that someone would take, but ultimately I didn't find anyone. So we're just going to let them hit the open market. We're not going to end up QOing either pitcher here. I'm just too afraid they'll accept it. And then we have a bunch of players here who we're saying goodbye to. The notable name, I think, is Wilfredo Antunes, kind of the end of an era for him with us. So everyone else is back on board. We had a lot of contracts signed, notably Matt Brash and Brian Abreu. I'll show you the structures of their deals. So we managed to prevent Abreu from hitting the open market, and we had to promise him 2 years of guaranteed $9.5 million salary. The team option on the third year is for just $9 million in his age 34 season, and we did promise him the closing role. So a lot of promises made to Abreu, but I like his development in relation to our coaching staff, and he's been pretty good for us so far. In the 2 years we've had him. So I felt good about bringing him back. Matt Brash did end up extorting us for more guaranteed money, but very similar to Abreu, I did not want to let him hit the open market, and he actually led us in shutdowns last season, so I think he's a viable backup closing option for us, but he, like I mentioned, wanted 3 years fully guaranteed, and I don't totally mind it because he's going to be age 33 in that final year. I don't think it's too egregiously old for him, so we're tied to him for a little bit longer than Abreu, but we're kind of just running it back with our back-end bullpen. Everyone else, that we extended an offer to through arbitration ended up signing, namely Nick Gonzalez, and the fans were really happy about that. And they were really happy about Termar Johnson re-signing as well. So when we go back to our finances here, you can see we're dipping into the negative, but that will turn positive once Endy and Peguero, once their estimates are cleared off the books. So we'll be back in the green, and our fan interest has improved a further 2 points to 78 overall. So I've sort of been fielding Cedric Mullins deals in the background as well. I think teams are being a little conservative before free agency begins. I think there will be a wider market for him on the 26th, but I have seen some deals with a few teams showing initial interest in him, so I think it's going to be possible that we end up trading him in his final year here. We'll have to retain some of his salary, but I think we can get it off the books and kind of clear the path for some of our younger guys. And I think that's it. I think that's all the news I have written down. Let's go for some of the awards. Let's look at things that have happened here. No recognition for us in Gold Gloves. This is the AL, of course. You can kind of see all the familiar names here. I'm not really too familiar with this Jorge Ruiz guy. And in the NL, you can see Ethan Salas locking it down behind the plate. Starlin Cabo is outstanding. He had a 7-WAR season at shortstop, which is pretty crazy just in his second year up at the majors for Coach Andrew McCutcheon and the Miami Marlins. And then Spencer Jones also getting recognized for his fielding as well. As far as, we made news signing Abreu. That was national news. And as far as relieving goes, it's a clean sweep for John Duran and the Tampa Bay Rays. A couple other guys getting recognition here. In the NL, it's Justin Martinez with kind of a bizarre split year where Hobie Milner actually got more first-place votes, but he beat him in the aggregate. And then our guy Brian Abreu got 2 votes down here and 21 points, so he ended up finishing 4th. So I think I'm glad we brought back Brian Abreu because he's already factoring in here. We've already gone over his stats. He had a really strong season. Silver Sluggers in the AL. Cal Raleigh, Vladdy, Jackson Holiday, Royce Lewis, all names we're familiar with. The Martian and Ceddanne Rafaela. Also appear here, Trent Grisham getting a big year with 32 homers for the Yankees and 5.2 WAR. In the NL, no one from our Pirates, unfortunately. It's really competitive out here. I'm surprised that Nick Gonzalez did not beat out Luis Garcia, but you can see he had 31 homers, so I guess that does make sense. Ellie De La Cruz with a monster year, 10.8 WAR. Jackson Merrill as well, 8.1 in center field. And our friend Isaac Paredes in his first year in San Francisco. Is it his first year or is it? Yeah, it's his first year. Ended up hitting 34 homers for 144 WRC+. So, best of luck to him. Best rookie in the AL goes to this Rain Doncon guy who we kind of looked at a little bit ago. We were unaware of him, but he almost clean sweeps it. Owen Casey getting 1 vote there. In the NL, it is Luis Cova for the Marlins here, beating out Oswaldo Osorio. I'm kind of surprised at this result. I think it's just a counting stats kind of thing because he had a 3.8 WAR. I would have anticipated Boston Barrow winning at a 4.0 WAR, but I guess he just had fewer homers and fewer RBI totals, so he didn't quite get the nod, even though I think he's likely the best rookie. Our guy Carson Benj does get slight recognition, a couple down ballot votes here. Manager of the year goes to Dan Wilson of the Seattle Mariners and Jay Gibbons of the Cincinnati Reds. So our guy Melvin Brosabon could not take it home. As far as Cy Young goes, in the AL, it's Max Fried with a clean sweep. Led the league. He was 22-3 with 230 innings pitched. He was just a workhorse for them, and he was tremendous across. This is one of the better pitching seasons I've seen. Geez, 6.7 WAR. Big year for Max Fried. In the NL, it is Yoshinobu Yamamoto with the clean sweep here. But look at our guys, Jared Jones and Mitch Keller, getting down ballot votes, finishing 3rd and 4th in the overall Cy Young voting. Yamamoto, similar, most games started, fit minus looking awesome, not walking dudes at all, 5.3 WAR. And Paul Skeens finishes behind Jared Jones. Ooh, must sting to see that if you're him. But I clicked into him. He had an overall pretty solid season, not his best for sure. But they ended up extending him. They gave him pretty big money, but on a very tight window contract. So he's going to get to hit free agency again. But they did shell out the 51 mil, 48. We could not afford that, you guys. There's no way. So that's why we shipped him to Queens, where they can afford it. As far as MVP goes, we're not going to really show here either. It's a competitive race here. Max Fried honestly shows pretty well, but it is the Martian who takes it home for the Yankees, sort of taking the crown from Aaron Judge. Not the most flashy season, I would say. I mean, it's definitely really solid, 34 and 99. He led the AL in OPS and WRC plus for a 6.8 WAR, but not not a 50 homer season or anything like that. In the NL, it is, like I mentioned, Ellie De La Cruz with the clean sweep. Our guy, Nick Gonzalez, is the final guy here. He got 1 down ballot vote. Shout out Nick Gonzalez. But Ellie really had the best season across the majors this year. 50 homer, 55 steal, 50-50 season for 1,000 OPS and a 171 WRC plus with great defense. He's a full on superstar, and we're going to have to deal with him for several years to come in our division. So those are the awards. Last bit of business here I wanted to do on camera before we continue advancing and take a look at the free agency pool is in relation to our old buddy Brian Reynolds. When we cut those salaries earlier, I had meant to do him as well, but it's kind of fitting that he gets his own moment. He's been with Pittsburgh his entire MLB career, almost 10 years at this point. He's a 9-year veteran, so it's sort of a little bit shady for us to do it when he's so close to reaching that 10-year service time milestone. But he's been a negative WAR player for us 3 straight seasons. We gotta move on for the sake of our team and performance. We're just going to eat the dead money. We're going to give him the DJ LeMahieu treatment and just waive and DFA him. So this shouldn't have any repercussions. Like, he's not popular with the fans anymore. He's really fallen off, and it's kind of just time. It's an unceremonious end to his career here, but it needs to happen. So we're going to waive and DFA him, and we're going to end up releasing him as well. So that is a done deal. End of an era, like I mentioned, just had to be done. Let's go ahead and keep things moving here. Can we get an F in the chat for Brian Reynolds? But we're going to advance a couple more days here and recheck in at the start of the free agency filings, and we can kind of look at the pool and decide how we want to attack the free agency. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and wrap up here. We are at the free agency filing date. As you can see, our total available money has crept up to around 6.2 mil, but that's still pretty, a pretty tight margin when we're looking for like a number 3 starting pitcher. If we dive a little deeper into the finances, you can sort of see on, maybe it's better to go to this accounting screen. It's easier. So you're looking at this middle column here, 2029, and you can see this row here, miscellaneous player expenses. So our player buyout of Brian Reynolds, in addition to the holdover last year of Ke'Bryan Hayes, like both of those totaled together is almost 20 or a little over 20 mil. So we're kind of carrying that dead payroll forward into this year, so it's kind of handicapping us a bit. And then we have just Brian Reynolds flat 15 mil to look forward to next season on our books. So there's a little bit of overlap here in the year 2029 where we're currently paying for both of them. And, that's obviously not ideal, but I think it's going to make us a better team on the field. We still have our player dev budget here at 30 mil, but we could, honestly take that down closer to 20 if we need to down the line. And then, of course, there's international free agency as well, which we're kind of working on in the background, but we have yet to spend there. And then our draft, we could, manipulate the finances a bit to open up more money if we need to. That's sort of what I'm getting at. But I've sort of gone through and put together like a mock, depth chart. I don't think there's much for us to do lineup-wise because I'm looking at like all of these roles and I'm happy with, who we have here in addition to like, the backup at each position. So like Alfonso and Plaz behind the dish, Horowitz, Gonzalez, Sanford. I think that's pretty locked in and established. And then Termar, I think we're sliding down to third base, and then we're going to run Benj in the outfield as well, along with Lantigua as our starting day center fielder and Cruz in right, with kind of Esther Suero as the backup in both corners, and then Cruz can kind of take the middle. Suero can also play center too if he absolutely has to. But that's sort of how I have it structured currently. I think Yordani can transition into our backup middle infield role where he can honestly back up all 3 spots, second, third, and short. I think he brings maybe even a little bit more of a bat than Aiden Miller does. So it's going to be kind of a battle between them as to who makes the team. I think, we're not necessarily locked into Aiden Miller. I could see Yordani factoring or, taking all 3 of those spots. And then we currently have Vientos in at DH. But I think we're kind of looking to just rotate him in against right-handed pitching. I don't know that I want him to DH full-time for us. I'm, mostly interested in him playing against left-handed pitching for us. But we also have the option of Esmerlin Valdez to, take on that role. He brings a little bit more power upside, and he's definitely a lefty masher as well. So they're both kind of, filling a similar role there for us. So, like, all that to say, I don't, see any major needs here offensively. We're not currently factoring in Cedric Mullins because we're anticipating being able to trade him at some point. So I think, the needs on the offensive side are going to come from within. I think Connor Griffin could also factor into this outfield as well. I don't want to rule him out. In which case, like, if he gets a great result in the dev lab and, like, excels, it's possible that we bump Benj to like even DH and then Lantigua to left and then Connor Griffin takes center or something like that, and then Vientos is like truly just a corner backup. It's flexible depending on that outcome. As far as pitching, like I mentioned, we're still searching for a number 3 starter, and we're kind of uncertain on Thomas Harrington as our 5, to be honest. But the back end of our pen is pretty established with Abreu, Brash, and then we're going to give Holton another shot there. In the middle relief role, we have De La Paz and Fujimoto. Shosei Fujimoto is going to make the team this year, I think, or at least we're going to give him a good opportunity to. He's about to be 25, and we think he's kind of grown as a player as well. So even though he's just a 2-pitch guy, I kind of like having him. We did negotiate down his salary to just be a flat $950. Previously, he was on like an incentive deal, like a minor league, major league option deal that was like in the $1 million. We've negotiated that down, and we've got him on just a flat $950, which I feel better about running out there. So we have other guys here, like Jaden Woods. I mean, hypothetically could take that 5th starter spot, or he could be the long reliever. I think Bubba Chandler and Thomas White are kind of on the outside looking in, and we're going to go with JoJo as our lefty specialist again for the time being. So I think we're looking for like a righty middle reliever. I don't know that I want to commit to that being Bubba Chandler. I think we can find something better in free agency. So like someone who can really eat innings for us and like cover both sides of the plate, really be a reliable middle relief righty would be ideal. And then obviously we're going to search for a number 3 starter because Burrows could take that role, and I think he would be okay. He's pretty decent against both sides, but we'll see what's available to us. Maybe we can find somebody a little more well-established that we trust in the playoffs. So without further ado, let's take a look at the pool together. I've obviously done some research, and before we get started, I want to look at the international filings. There's quite a bit of pitchers here, only a few position player options, and I've taken a look at each. None are really all that interesting. There are no superstars here, I don't believe. So if you like, I'm just going to hover over these names. They're kind of just whatever. This is probably the most interesting pitcher, Ramiro Tejada. He's a lefty, just 25. Good personality, good at holding runners, good stamina. Not the best at movement, doesn't really throw that hard, has a primary pitch as a slider, but he's kind of like a kitchen sink kind of guy. His only pitch with velocity is his cutter, weirdly. I would say we're kind of interested in him just based on like the unknown and the personality. Like maybe he could turn it around. So we are going to try to scout him and possibly bring him on in like a, some sort of role. I don't know that we're going to commit a 40-man spot to him or not. It's kind of to be determined, but he's a little bit interesting. None of these other pitchers really offer too much. This guy out of Japan is maybe a little interesting, but he doesn't really have good stamina at all, and he's just a 2-pitch guy, so not really blown away here. And then this last lefty guy is nothing to speak of either. He's also 31. And then position player-wise, like, again, just very slim picking. The one interesting guy is this Kameji Haraguchi guy who's, like, listed as a shortstop, but obviously he profiles more as a third baseman. He's kind of like a contact first third baseman, which kind of goes against the traditional archetype you want to see there. He could feasibly play an outfield spot, but he doesn't have the best error and arm rating either. But, good work ethic, 22 years old. He's potentially interesting to just bring into the organization as like a minor league signing. I don't even know that we'll fully scout him or not. We may just look to sign him straight off the bat. But no other names to speak of. The actual big name MLB free agents, we have it sorted here. We just go to all players. You can see the guys who are demanding the most money, and it pretty closely aligns with the guys with the highest overall and potential. So a couple of big name pitchers here, Logan Webb, DeGrom, George Kirby's looking for that first big deal. As you can see, he wants like a 10-year contract for $400 million plus, which, I mean, he probably deserves it. So a lot of big pitching. The biggest bat is Riley Green here, who also wants a very insane offer here, $362 million for him. and he probably deserves it as well at just 28. So I don't know that we're going to be competing in this top end of the market, if I'm being honest. If we kind of refine by our needs here, if we go starter only, you can see the top rated guys. But you have to keep in mind, like, our budget here, we can, maybe free up close to 10 mil available, but like that just puts us at 16. And I don't know that that's enough to get one of these, like, really big arms. It's kind of like when you look at what everyone is demanding, it's a little daunting to try to tackle these guys. So like we're immediately out on all of these top names. Some of these more like veteran names here still want like a lot. Jesus Luzardo wants a lot. We're out on that. Spencer Strider wants a lot. Luis Castillo is here. Maybe we could convince him to come on board as like a veteran. I could see us making a play for that if he just wants like a 1-year deal or something like that. I actually don't even know what his expectations are. Okay, he kind of wants term, so that's going to be tough to convince him to come down on that. His signability is easy though for us, so maybe that makes sense for just a 1-year rental. Aaron Savali I would hate to run him out there, even though he's a 50 grade guy. He's cheap and he's a control artist. I mean, it's honestly not the worst idea. His ratings seem okay against both sides, but it's just not very exciting. It would be just kind of boring to bring him on as our 3 starter. Eric Fetty has a fractured elbow, so that's no good. Flaherty, we've sort of burned the bridge with him by not extending. He opted out anyway, so he's likely gone. Glasnow is wrecked physically. Hunter Green is really interesting, obviously. He's one of the best pitchers in the NL in real life when he's healthy, and he looks awesome here. I think he would play well in our park, and he's just 29, but he is sort of asking for money outside of what we're capable of offering, even if we kind of free up some money. I mean, I guess we could try to backload a deal for him and kind of come under, free up a bunch of money from our development budget this season and try to bring him on. That would be like one of the more aggressive strategies. So let me know how you feel about that. He's a popular player, but he's listed as hard to sign for us as well. So it may not be easy, but if you guys feel strongly about it, let me know in the comments. He's probably my favorite of the mid-tier pitchers available. It's kind of on a similar note, though, we have Dustin May here, who is easier for us to sign and looking for a little bit less. So he's 31 at this point, almost a 10-year veteran, but you look at all of his ratings, he's like pretty consistent across the board, and he got a good amount of work for the Dodgers this season. 23 starts, was a positive WAR player overall. I think he would play pretty well in our park, and he looks very solid against both sides, so it would definitely be less flashy compared to Hunter Green and a lot more modest of a contract. I think we could likely talk him down to a more reasonable figure. But if same for Christopher Sanchez too, he wants like a little bit more. He's the last one I was going to mention. 31-year-old like lefty. We don't have a lefty starter, so it could be interesting to bring him on. But again, you can kind of see his deal. Like he wants a little bit more than Dustin May did. So if I had to tier them, I would probably go Green, May, Sanchez as like my priority. But I think if we're going to look to bring on a solid pitcher, like we're going to have to free up money. We have so much dead money on our books. We're going to have to reel in player dev like down to like the $20 million range. And then that's going to open up like 16 mil of savings. Maybe we can trade Cedric Mullins and only eat a portion of his contract to free up slightly more money. But unless we get a payroll increase from our owner at the end of the midpoint of the offseason, like we're going to be struggling to fit all of this under our current budget. So let me know if you feel strongly about any of those starting pitchers. I'll scroll through the 45 grades really quickly. There's not all that many available here. Like Slade Ciccone is like maybe interesting a little bit. Richard Fitz is here. Shota is here. Although he's pretty old. Michael McGreevy here, but he's fragile, and he's not really the pitcher he is in real life either, and that's kind of it. It's slim picking on the 45 grades as well. So if we were to look at reliever too, we want to bring on a righty reliever as well. And there are a couple of options here. Like I mentioned, most of the top end of the market is older. So Chris Martin, Hobie Milner, and Ryan Brazier, Aroldis Chapman are all like close to 40. Bradley Rodriguez is here, and he only wants 1.2. But he is... I've had him before in previous games. He's like notorious for like poor control. And while we see decent control, OSA sees it lower. And he's never really pitched at the MLB level. And he was only a 0.1 WAR player at AAA last year, so I don't know that I like the idea of paying him like a major league contract and just relying on him to get a ton of innings for us. So I don't know that I love that. If you feel differently, let me know. Jason Foley is here as a 33-year-old. He only wants 2.8, but he doesn't really have the stamina I would want out of a middle relief guy. Like, I want a guy who's available often for us. So don't know that I love him in that role. Bruce Dog Gratterall is unfortunately wrecked, and he is, as you can see, out with a torn labrum currently. So kind of want to stay away from that. Morihone is here, but I don't think we need another lefty, even though I do like him. He still just has 25 stamina. The guy I favor the most is 29-year-old Randy Rodriguez, who only wants 1.8, and he's easy for us to sign, and he's durable. And he still has arbitration left, so we would have him under team control for a little bit, I think, as well. So I'm leaning this way. I know I just brought up the point that I want the guy to be an innings eater, but I think I'm willing to make an exception for Randy Rodriguez here, who is good against both sides of the plate here. And I think if we rewind all the way back to 2025, he actually won reliever of the year for the NL, where this year in real life, he's performing like really well. He has a great stat line for the real life Giants. So you can see how he has like performed over the last couple of seasons here. He's been a positive WAR player each time. There was like a little bit of regression in his numbers year over year, and maybe that's why he was released by Houston. But I think I would be happy to pounce on the opportunity to bring him on. So if we factor in, $2 million for him, plus like $15 million for a pitcher, that we need to free up $10 million in cash from somewhere, you guys, to make all this work. Devin Williams also here wants $3 million, which honestly not that bad. His performance, he's accustomed to pitching leverage and he expects to be a closer, which is a little bit of a disconnect from the role I would want to use him in. But at the same time, I guess you could say we could bring him in to be a setup closer back end guy and then bump Brash down to middle relief. I don't know if that makes sense or not. But there's a bunch of other, I like the Mountain theoretically, but I don't love his personality in our locker room, so I'd rather stay away, and his control being so low makes him, I think, highly volatile. But I'll scroll through the 45 grades here. There's quite a bit more in the relief market. If you see anyone that jumps out to you, make sure to mention them in the comments below. I'm also going to take a deeper look, obviously, on my own time here. I'm just kind of showing you who's initially available. Like I mentioned, there are quite a few guys here in the 45 grade range. So those are kind of the team needs I've, keyed in on for us. I don't know if there is, there may be something I'm not thinking of yet that we do need, but I think we're going to leave the episode off here, guys. We've made a lot of progress in sort of setting the table for the upcoming 2029 season together. And I look forward to kicking it off, but we've got quite a bit more offseason to handle. So in the next episode, we're going to try to make a few signings, make a few moves that increase the strength of our pitching staff, and try to trade away Cedric Mullins to free up some more money for us to work with here in free agency. So a lot to look forward to. We'll also work through the Rule 5 draft and see if we can make it all the way to international free agency. I think that'll be the goal. So hopefully you enjoyed watching. If you do, or if you have, I would appreciate a like on the video. It always helps boost the reach of the channel and brings more people into the community where we can, have discussions in the comments. But I'll be back with a new episode for you shortly, and we can keep things moving as we approach 2029. So take it easy, guys. I appreciate your time. Thanks.